You would think with the recent reveal of Toyota's new Halo sports car, the GR-GT, that we would have more clarification about Toyota's lineup of sports cars. But in fact, we are left with more questions as trademarks around the world are starting to, I guess, butt heads with each other. Today, we're going to try to make sense of what Toyota's doing with the MR2, the Celica, all their GR sports cars. I cannot wait to hang out with you in the comments, to theory craft with you, to do some sleuthing as well. Grab your snacks and drinks, buckle in, and what is going on with the MR2? Over at the drive, they actually have uncovered a new trademark. Now, let's go back. All right, we have to go back. Last August, all right, August 2024, Toyota trademarked MR2 in the United States. And it was just like, oh, it's a done deal at this point, MR2. It's going to be an MR2. Japan last week, their patent office saw an application for GR-MR2. I'm like, oh, great. Even more clarification that MR2 is coming. And right before we got that trademark in Japan, Australia trademarked GR-MR-S. So while it is interesting that we have different trademarks for the MR2 around the world in different locations, different markets, it doesn't mean that the vehicle is coming. Yes, the MR2 might not come at all. They could just be trademarking the intellectual properties for potential use in the future, so no one else can use them. But let's just entertain the idea, because in different markets, things can be called different things. Look, the Venza and the Harrier are the same vehicle and they're different things. The Harrier and the Lexus RX used to be the exact same thing, but called different things in different markets. So Toyota could be doing that. It was either MR2 or Toyota MR, okay, always in different markets. Now, the third gen came around, definitely not built like cut from the same cloth as the first two generations. More of like a Miata-fied MR2, low horsepower, not nearly as expensive or premium as a vehicle, I would say. And it just came with the 1.8 liter 1ZZ engine, 138 horsepower. Okay, where the previous ones had turbos as an option. So this vehicle, though, was called the MRS in Japan, MR2 Spider in the UK and Australia. But in Australia, they just trademarked MRS or GR-MRS. And yeah, like I said, the United States called it the MR2 Spider. Okay, I thought it was honestly called the MRS here. That tells you how little I carry this vehicle in my thoughts. And I've never driven one. So, I remember seeing them. I remember playing football. Yes, I played football in high school, and I remember going to a very expensive private school in Omaha to play football. They weren't very good, typically, at football, that team. And anyways, they didn't have lights, so we had to play in the daylight. And what's interesting is a lot of the parents would just drive up to the field and park alongside of the field. And I remember an MR2 Spider. I'm like, what the heck is that? And I'm like distracted playing football. Okay, don't worry, we won the game. Dropped 3 tutties, no big deal. All right, but this MR2 always was interesting because it just looked so unique, but it got rid of the pop-up headlights, and it honestly, it doesn't look or feel anything like the old MR2s. All right, so that's why I saw it back then, and I'm like, what the heck is that? Is that a Porsche? Is that a Boxster? Is that something different? I didn't know at the time. All right, so it is what it is. Whatever this vehicle is going to be called, MR2, MRS, GR-MR2, GR-MRS, it might not be called that at all. In fact, remember we're getting reports from Best Car this year, maybe even last year, that said, hey, they didn't know whether to call the vehicle the Celica or the MR2. But I did initially what Best Car was thinking, that there'd be 2 models. You would have an MR2 mid-engine car, and then you would have a Celica front-engine car. So technically, we still could get both an MR2 and a Celica, but it's more than likely one or the other. Toyota themselves, from their own people inside of Toyota, have said that the Celica is coming back. This mid-engine vehicle is most likely to be called the GR Celica. Now, is it possible in certain markets it could be called the GR MR2? I guess. It could just be the same vehicle, a sort of Venza Harrier situation. But when you're a global sports car brand, you want continuity. All right. So it's either going to be called a GR Celica or GR MR2. I don't expect MRS unless they come out with a lower horsepower variant of this mid-engine vehicle, which is possible. The GR Celica is, if I were a betting man, I would say that's the vehicle that's coming, or the name that's coming, even though it will be mid-engine. Got to keep in mind the old MR2s were rear wheel drive mid-engine. Now the Celicas of old, you had the GT4 Celica, right? That had all-wheel drive. So they're kind of marrying two ideas here: an all-wheel drive rally Celica with with a mid-engine MR2, and blending it into one car. The GR Yaris and the GR Corolla is kind of an all-in-one car too. All right, it can do track duty and it can also do rally driving really, really well. But that's already the front engine all-wheel drive, something that the old GT4 Celica was. Then we also have to, talk about segments. Price segments for these GR vehicles. We know there's going to be a new GR86. The latest reports are saying that it is going to be developed alongside of Mazda engineers to build a co-GR86 Miata model. And I'm all for that. Front engine, rear wheel drive. Technically, it's front mid-engine. Same thing with the Celica and the GR GT, for example. But you know what I mean. This could use the new naturally aspirated 2-liter engine, and it could have 200 horsepower. All right. Perfect. Keep the price low. The lower, the better. The Miata and the GR86 already start around $30,000. This is a sweet spot for entry-level rear-wheel drive, manual transmission sports cars. Then you have, let's skip these two segments right now. You have the GR Supra, which who knows when it's coming. It's pretty much confirmed that Toyota's building in-house Supra. Obviously, this Supra will slot well under the GR GT, which just got revealed, twin-turbo V8 hybrid. There will be GT3 variants, and it's mainly for racing. All right, so $200K. And Lexus will make their own battery electric. In theory, please God, no. Anyways, I don't need to talk about the LFA BEV concept. It's just a concept, and I'll just end it there. I'm not going to put any stake on that vehicle actually being a BEV until it officially happens. Let's get to these two price points. Well, currently the GR Yaris and the GR Corolla are in this $40,000 to $45,000, $46,000 price bracket. Obviously, we don't get the GR Yaris in the United States. Other markets do, but I believe it's priced similarly to the GR Corolla. Now, the problem with this, the problem with these vehicles going forward, is as much as I want them to get a second generation, I question it. I question it because of Akio Toyota's vision to have GR products, Gazoo Racing, be its own lineup, separate from Toyota, but sold at Lexus dealerships that want to sell GR products. You're no longer affiliated directly with Toyota. What's the freaking point of GRifying a Corolla or a Yaris? I know the Yaris is bespoke. It kind of is in Yaris. It's like a mix between B and C platform. I'm not getting into that right now, but a total departure away from Toyota naming altogether. There's not going to be, for example, you're not going to have a Celica in the Toyota lineup. It would just be GR Celica under the Gazoo Racing brand in Lexus dealerships. Now, is it possible that GR could also be sold at Toyota dealerships? I guess that's possible. But what I've heard from the Lexus dealer meetings is that Lexus dealerships will have the ability to apply to sell not only Gazoo Racing branded cars like the GR GT and lower price models, but also Century models, flagship pricing. I don't know, like whatever the Century's SUV, the Century Coupe, whatever those are going to be priced to $200,000 starting, something like that, right? And that makes sense for this top end product. If they get rid of the GR Corolla and GR Yaris next generation altogether, then we have this huge two price categories of sports cars that we need to fill. It could go on, but I don't know what kind of engine. Are they going to keep building the 3-cylinder 1.6 turbo, or are they going to replace it with the new 4-cylinder engines, either the 1.5-liter turbo or the 2-liter turbo? I have no idea, right? They could go lots of different directions with this. But let's say that let's theory craft for a bit. Let's say GR Yaris and GR Corolla are gone. Those vehicles were beta testing for this thing coming. Okay, so let's say you have two vehicles here, all right, which are both mid-engine. Let's say you have GR Celica here and a GR MR2 here. I had to re-record something during my editing because, well, there's just a lot of stuff going on in my head. But rear wheel, it would be mid-engine rear wheel drive for this base model, not front engine like the old Celicas. But this could be, for example, this right here could actually be the GR MR2, right? Because the MR2 was always rear wheel drive. And then we could have the GR Celica here, which had the GT4, which now is replaced by GR4 technology, but that would be the all-wheel drive model, and that would have potentially more horsepower. Now, there's always a possibility we could have 400 horsepower here, and then we could have 400 to 500 horsepower here. Anything's possible. I'll just leave it there, and I'll copy and paste this on the rest of what I have to say, because the rest of what I had to say is still true. This seems to be a lock. This is a lock. Those two things on the bookends are there, okay? The top end and the bottom end. Supra almost guaranteed at this point. We just don't know if it's going to be co-developed with Mazda with an inline six, a 2-liter turbo hybrid. Could they use the same, 8-speed auto hybrid setup that we see in the GR GT here? Absolutely. And pair it with the 2-liter turbo? That could absolutely happen for a GR Supra. That would make sense now that I'm thinking about it. That thought didn't come across my mind. All right, so maybe we put 2-liter turbo hybrid. All right, and I even put twin turbo V8 hybrid here. All right, and this is 4.0 liter. There we go. There you go. You guys are probably losing your minds not having the spreadsheet filled out. So this is just one potential reality we could live in. All right, where we have two mid-engine cars from Toyota, or they keep the GR Corolla around and the GR Yaris around, but I don't think so. If I had to bet, I would say GR Corolla served its purpose as a test bed for this new Celica/MR2 vehicle. Whatever it's going to be called, and both of them could come to market, but those vehicles will supplant, in theory, the GR Corolla and GR Yaris. All right. Let me know if you guys are following me here. Do I have any other notes? Oh, there's always a possibility, and I know this isn't going to get anybody excited. There's always a possibility that the MR2 could be an electric car. Remember 2 years ago, Japan Mobility Show, David from Automotive Press and we showed you the FTSE. And this vehicle, I'm like, man, it looks like an MR2. And then David's like, hey, that could be the new Supra. Who knows what it could be if it comes to anything. It's definitely just a concept, but it was the design on it's amazing. All right, but I was definitely getting more mid-engine proportions from it than I was, like long hood, rear-wheel drive front engine, longitudinal engine configuration, like a Supra. I wasn't getting those vibes. All right, still could be, but to me, this could be an MR2, and that could be a fully electric. So going back to here, is it possible that MR2 EV? I guess. All right, it's entirely possible. No one would want it unless it had solid state batteries, and this would be Toyota's flex with solid state batteries, while Lexus flexes with the LFA coupe. That's always a possibility. But if we're talking solid state batteries in a Toyota, we're talking buku dollars. We're talking well over $60K, well over $60,000, and it would fill the gap between Supra and GR GT if it's a electric solid state battery sports car. All right. And I don't know. I don't think there's a market for it. Look how good the Ioniq 5 is, and it's just very, 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 very low volume and low interest. Sorry, Ioniq 5N. So, yeah, Toyota's got to figure out this right here. And I can only guess so much without having more information. But the latest information from Japan is saying that the MR2 is being rolled into the Celica. It'll just be called the Celica. All right, hopefully we have different outputs of it so it can fill multiple price brackets, okay? time will tell. Thank you guys for watching. I thought this was fun, and I was inspired to make this video due to the Drive putting this article out here. All right, what the heck is Toyota working on? What is this going to be called? Is it actually going to be an MR2 in naming, or is it just an MR2 in spirit because it's mid-engine? All right, but the MR2 was always rear-wheel drive. So this is kind of blending, like I said, Celica and MR2, and they're going to for sure have a Celica. That's what Toyota has confirmed. Multiple executives within the company have said, hey, we're bringing Celica back. No word on MR2. You can look at the trademarks as one thing, but I'll reserve MR2 for a later day. I think Celica is a lock. Thank you guys for watching. This is just a fun video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And let me know which price bracket of sports car. Obviously 200K. The 1% of the 1% are buying a 200K vehicle, all right, as a toy, right? All right. The 1%, I would say maybe not 1%, but let's say like the top 5 to 3% are buying a $60 toy, $60,000 toy. All right, maybe top 5% are buying a $50,000 toy. $30,000 toy, much more attainable, much more attainable. And you might be saying, Kirk, hey, I want to daily my GR86, then go for it. Do it. But this next generation, who knows? Is it going to be a 2+2? If it's going to be built alongside the Miata, is it just going to be a 2-seater? I don't know. I honestly have no idea. So thank you guys. Stay tuned for more. Hope you're having a great holiday season so far, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.